most stone-hearted man will be melted. Pashana means stone. It is so nice that even stone will melt. But Lochandas Thakur regrets that he is entrapped by sense gratification. He addresses himself, "My dear mind, you are entrapped in the sense gratification process and you have no attraction for chanting Hare Krishna. Since you have no attraction for the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, what can I say? I can simply think of my misfortune. Yamaraj, the superintendent of death, is punishing me by not allowing me to be attracted by this movement." Go Premanande, Hari Bol. Lochandas Thakur ki jai. Alright, Jajam Shripadapam Supravijagacharya Ashtotra Sudha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 13, the appearance of Lord Varaha, text 10. Please repeat after me. Ethavati Atmajir Veeram. Ethavati Atmajir Veeram. Karyahi Apachitir Guru. Karyahi Apachitir Guru. Shaktya Pramatir Grahyetam. Shaktya Pramatir Giryetam. Sadaram Gatamatsaraihi. Sadaram Gatamatsaraihi. Sorry, I was carried away by the song, so I forgot the preliminary chants. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki Etavati Atmajer Veera Karyahi Apachitir Guru Shaktya Pramater Griyateya Sadrasham Gatamatsarahi. So Prabhuji want to repeat. Etavati Atmajir Veera Karyahi Apachitir Guru Shaktya Brahmatair Griyatam Sadaram Gatamatsarahi. Etavati Atmajair Veera Karyahi Apachitir Guru Shaktya Brahmatair Griyeta Sadaram Matagatsarahi. Etavati Atmajaya Veera Karyahi Apachitir Guru Shaktya Paramadya Griyeta Sadaram Gata Matsarai. Marajis. Etavati Atmajaya Veera Karyahi Apachaitir Guru Saktya Brahmate Griyata Sadaram Gadamatsaraihi. Do you guys, Motherji, you want to chant? Any one of you? The child? No? No? Okay. Transliteration. Etavati. Just exactly like this. Atmajai. By the offsprings. Veera. O hero. Karya. Should be performed. He. Certainly. Apachitihi. Worship. Guru. Unto the superior. Shaktya. With full capacity. Aparmatihi. By the sane. Griyate. Griyata. Should be accepted. Sa adaram. With great delight. Gata matsarai. By those who are beyond the limit of envy. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Please repeat after me. O hero, your example is quite befitting a son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limit of envy and who is sane accepts the order his father with great delight and executes it to the full capacity. Okay, purport. When the four previous sons of Brahma, the sages Sanaka, Sanatana, Sanandana and Sanat Kumara, refused to obey their father, Brahma was mortified and his anger was manifested in the shape of Rudra. That incident was not forgotten by Brahma, and therefore the obedience of Manu Swayamvara was very encouraging. From the material point of view, the four sages' disobedience to the order of their father was certainly abominable. But because such disobedience was for a higher purpose, they were free from the reaction of disobedience. Those who disobey their father on the material grounds, however, are surely subjected to the disciplinary reaction for such disobedience. Manu's obedience to his father on the material grounds was certainly free from envy, and in the material world it is imperative for the ordinary men to follow the example of Manu. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shridhapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishagan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivrisesha Shunyavadi Pashyati Teshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyasha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sude Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master opened my eyes to the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Tavai vasmi, tavai vasmi, tavai vasmi, tavai vina. iti vijñādevi tvam nayamam charanantikam. O hero, your example is quite befitting. A son in relationship with his father. This sort of adoration for the superior is required. One who is beyond the limits of envy and who is sane accepts the order of his father with great delight and executes it to his full capacity. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to this morning's Bhagavatam class, chapter The Appearance of Lord Varaha. Here Brahma addresses his son Manu, Swayambhava Manu, as a hero. Here the creator of the entire cosmic material creation, he's addressing Swayambhava Manu as a hero because Swayambhava Manu has taken the task of family life. So taking up a grahastha ashram is a heroic activity in the material world because it's a very risky enterprise, and for someone to take up the ashram and successfully implement that ashram within all the rules and regulations is a very heroic task. It's not an easy task. So here Brahma, even this is happening in Satya Yuga, even in those time periods when everything is pure and uncontaminated, still the brothers or predecessors of Swayambhava Manu have declined to take up the path of Grahastha Ashram or procreation because it's quite risky. So Swayambhava Manu is appreciated by Brahma here as a hero. It's a similar mention in Kali Yuga. For somebody to maintain a wife and a couple of few children is considered a heroic task. It's a very it's considered as a great personality to do that in Kali Yuga. So so here we can see even in Satya Yuga, Swayambhava Manu is appreciated. Even in previous verse, we can see the word prithas, or Brahma uses, I'm very pleased with you that you have done, you've taken up this risky task. Similarly, the same word prithas is used by Lord Vishnu, Krishna himself, when he appears before Daksha Prajapati. And in the Hamsa, what's the Hamsa Duta prayers? Hamsa Guya prayers. After he finishes praying, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu appears, and this is what he says: Priyas, you have taken this thankless task of procreating or entering into Grahastha Ashram. So you're very your activity is very pleasing to me, the Supreme Lord says. So entering into Grahastha Ashram for procreation is very pleasing to the Supreme Lord and to the previous acharyas, to personalities like Brahma. Of course, one enters Grahastha Ashram. The reason for entering Grahastha Ashram is not for sense gratification. People nowadays, people give reasons even within the devotee community. I want to get married because I want some company. I feel alone. So I'm feeling loneliness, and so I need some company. I got somebody to go home to. I work whole day and go home and there's somebody there. So people say, I want to get married because I want some company. Or generally people get married because they want to indulge their senses, living in the ashram or living single men. They can't, have their sexual desires satisfied. So they might say, I want to get married so that I can, take part within the legal confines of dharma. I can take part in sexual activities. So people might give many reasons for getting married or to enter into Grahastha life. But the primary reason, or the only reason is to produce Krishna-conscious offsprings. Putra is to produce Krishna-conscious offsprings. People who claim that, I want to get married for company so that I can have intellectual conversation with women. We all know we can't really have intellectual conversation with don't want to say women, with your partner, because what a male considers intellectual conversation is different from what female considers as intellectual conversation. What a guy want to talk about, even in a mundane level, what a guy want to talk about is want to talk about sports, adventure, politics, and things like that. Women don't want to talk about it. I don't know if any women want to talk about sports and politics. Women generally want to talk about, I don't know, what you ladies want to talk about? Nothing? Okay. Generally what women talk, when I was young, what the ladies used to get together and talk about it, they will talk about cooking, exchange recipes, how to decorate the house, how to sew dress for the deities, how, the Diwali is coming, or, Shankaratni is coming, what nice preparations we can prepare for the Lord. So these are things women talk about. Or, modern day women, they might talk about cosmetics and, beauty products and how to look, whatever. So there's a difference between what the different genders want to, what they consider as stimulating conversation. So if one says, I want to get married for company or for intellectual stimulation, they're just lying to themselves because it doesn't exist. That's why in Vedic society there's separation of sexes. Men generally hang out with men. They spend more time with men, and women hang out with women. By doing that, there's less quarrel, because what a man considers interesting is something what women doesn't want to hear, and what a woman consider interesting, a man doesn't want to hear. And if you put them together, in Kali Yuga we all live in what you call nuclear families. Is that what they call them? Nuclear families, where there's just husband and wife. And naturally they all end up fighting because they have completely, by what do you call it? By definition, or by what's the word I'm looking at? Are you looking at you? I don't know. By definition, what a man thinks is entertaining is different from what women thinks entertaining, and then so there's generally a conflict in nuclear families. Where if it's just husband and wife living together. But if in an extended, bigger family, or what's the word? Joint families. Joint families. There is, there's brothers and cousins, and they all, grandfathers. They all live together, and they all hang out together, and they all, do whatever the family business is, or farming or something. So the men spend time with them, together, and the women. There's wives of the brothers, and there's mother-in-law, there's sister of the husband, or the co-wives. They all hang out and they all spend time together, and they are, satisfied in their own intellectual levels. So there's less reason for conflict. I'm going out of topic. So the reason for getting married is neither for company or for intellectual stimulation with the partner, or for sexual indulgence. The reason for getting married is to have a child, putra. Generally, putra is defined as a son in Vedic context. Putra hinam graham shunyam, this is what Chanakya Pandit says. A house without a son is empty. Shunyam is zero. There's no family life. Family life means having a son. And also Manu in his same Swayambhu Manu in his Manu Smriti, he says. We are all indebted to the forefathers, because we are all born in certain lineage. Everybody has a gotra. You know what a gotra is? Every family has a gotra. It comes from a particular rishi, and the rishi's name is your gotra. And all the Hindus, when they get married, they mention their gotra. So I'm marrying from this particular gotra, daughter of this particular gotra, and I'm from this gotra. So it represents a particular lineage. So when a son is born, as a man, you are indebted to all the rishis and all the pitras or the forefathers through whom you got this body. And since you are indebted, as soon as you have a son, as soon as you give birth to a son, you're not anymore indebted to their forefathers. Of course, the son should be a devotee or following dharma. Can we reserve the question and answers to the end? Okay, otherwise, the flow of class. So as soon as a person gives birth to a son, he is no more indebted to the forefathers and to the rishis of his gotra, because a son, either when he is dharmic, he will do all the pitra yagyas or pitra pujas. In seventh canto it is mentioned what are the various pitra pujas one has to perform. That is during Makara Sankranti, and the opposite is the Karaka Sankranti, when sun enters Makara, that is in the middle of January. And then Karaka Sankranti around it will be around October. One has to do oblations to the forefathers. Son is required to do oblations to the forefathers. When you're following Karmakanda process, because the whole Vedic system is designed in such a way one doesn't degrade to hellish planets. One goes towards Vaikuntha or towards the heavenly planetary system. Only it's upwards. Because only in upwards journey there is peace and happiness. When you go towards lower planetary systems, there's only misery. So, if a person doesn't make it, if a forefather doesn't make it to a higher planetary systems or to Vaikuntha or some other way, he falls into hellish planetary system, this pitra pujas, oblations, liberate one from these lower planetary systems. It is said that if by accident if a person ends up in hellish body or in a body of a ghost or something, they're always starving. There is no physical body for them to eat, so they're stuck in this subtle body and they're always starving. And these oblations offered by the sons give them food, and if just feeds them. And also the food, if it is offered to Vishnu and then offered, it liberates them from those miserable conditions, conditions of life. And it's a very important, according to Karmakanda, this pitra oblations to the pitrus are considered very important part of the ceremony. If one doesn't perform this pitra oblations to forefathers, it's considered very sinful process. That's why even nowadays, people might do all kind of nonsense when it comes to their personal life, but when it comes to the Amavasya, the Mavliya Amavasya, which is the fortnight before Diwali, let's say a month before Diwali, they all go and perform, Pitra Puja, oblations to their forefathers. The tradition is also that a son goes to Gaya and also to Rameshwaram to offer oblations to the forefathers. Gaya is where the mark of the lotus feet of Vishnu is there. And oblations offered to the lotus feet of Vishnu so that the forefathers can get liberated. And similarly in Rameshwaram, Ramachandra himself did the Pitra Puja for his father and also for Jatayu. So when Jatayu passed away, he protecting or trying to defend Sita and dies by Ramana. And when Ram comes to know, he considers himself as his father and offers him Pitra Puja in Rameshwaram. So keeping with that tradition, even now, if you go to Rameshwaram, people offer oblations. There's people from South India, they're always going to Gaya to do this, and if you go to Rameshwaram, you can see a lot of North Indians, from all the remote places. They still go and perform these oblations because it is very important. Unless these pitras are happy and satisfied, even from a karma-kandic process, you can't be happy or satisfied because your fathers and your forefathers are starving and are in miserable condition. So how can you be happy? So having a son who's taking up grahastha and procreating is very important. So here, in the same sense, Brahma is also very pleased with Manu, who has taken up having progeny. Well, of course, Brahma's concern is not that the sons will, Manu's sons will offer oblations. Brahma's concern is more, he wanted to satisfy the Lord's desire. The Lord's desire is to have the world filled with living entities. The living entities are all resting in Karnodaka Shaya Vishnu in their subtle bodies. They don't have a gross body to enjoy their karma. Through enjoyment of karma, they will realize the miserable condition of the material world and the signs of karma, and they will take up devotional service and go back to Godhead. So they need that gross body as a vessel or as an instrument to go back to Godhead. And since now they are all stuck in Karnodaka Vishnu, only in their subtle body, and none of Brahma's early sons have taken up procreation, it's a bit of a conundrum there. So when Swayambhava Manu takes up the process of procreation, Brahma is very pleased with him, and he blesses him. So Swayambhava Manu is not an ordinary person. Anyway, to tie off, what I was talking about, Pitra Pujas. Of course, one has, there's a verse in, what is the 11th canto? What is that? Pitra Bhutani Muninam, Devarishi Muninam, something like that. Bhutani. That's all, thank you. So it says, the verse goes, one is indebted to devas who provide sun, light, air, water. We're all indebted because we are taking them, free of cost. The council charges is water bill. You can't just take free water. Similarly, there's rain given by the demigods. So similarly, rishis, we come in certain, particular rishis lineage, or the rishis have given knowledge for us to benefit. And also pitras, the fathers and forefathers, they're given us this material gross body. So we are all indebted. And what is that? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna uses the word sthana. Sthana means a thief. So if one enjoys without paying back all these entities, all these predecessors or superiors, one is considered a thief. But if one takes shelter of Mukunda, one takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his Mukunda form completely. It has to be careful. One has to be completely surrendered, not half surrendered and give up your dharma. You have to be completely surrendered, and then you don't need to perform all these activities. If one is completely 100% surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then you are relieved of all these debts. For that, Prabhupada quotes, again it's in Bhagavatam, I guess it's in 4th canto, where it says, if one waters the root, they don't need to water the leaves and twigs of a tree. When the root, the whole tree is satisfied by watering the root of a tree. Similarly, by worshipping Mukunda, all the debts are paid automatically. So here is, one has to take up devotional service strictly, and if people who are not in a position to follow devotional service strictly, they're still obliged to do these oblations. They're still indebted to various demigods. To tie that part, yeah. So going forward with this verse, even though there's not much purport in this, there's few nice things to remember here. In what is that? 9th canto? Is it 9th canto? Chapter 18, text 44. Puru, Yayati's son. He's lamenting to his father. He defines what Uttama, Madhyama, and Adama son. To being Uttama means the first class son, is a son who understands the mood of the father and performs the desire of the father, even without the father instructing him or asking for it. So that's called a Uttamas, the first class son. The Madhyama son is the son who is being instructed by the father. The father expresses his desire, and the son who performs his father's desire. That's a Madhyama son. And Puru here is lamenting that he is not a Uttama son because he has to wait for his father to come and ask him for his desire. And then Puru accepts it. So he's lamenting that, I'm not a first class son, please forgive me. And the Ayati story goes. And the Adama, the third class son, is a son, in spite of instruction, doesn't follow the instructions of the father. So that's considered third class son. So here, Swayambhava Manu is a first class son because he understands the mood of his father. Even though in Varnashram point of view, or one has to, entering Grahastha life is not the topmost ashram in various considerations. But here it is performed as a higher duty. So here the actual Yutta Vairagya is reflected, where engaging in Grahastha ashram, even though it is a lower nature, but for the pleasure of the Lord. Swayambhava Manu takes up Grahastha ashram and takes up procreation as a devotional service. So because he does it as a devotional service, Brahma is satisfied. Brahma is very happy, and he is very pleased with his son. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Once the spiritual master is satisfied, the Lord is satisfied. Similarly, here Brahma is the spiritual master of Swayambhava Manu in one sense, and also he is the father. So Swayambhava Manu, even before Brahma can express his desire, understanding the father's desire, he agrees to procreate or take up family life. So he is glorified. On the other hand, you can see the 4 Kumaras and the sages, they haven't taken up procreation, even though they understood, even though they knew what Brahma's mood was, or Brahma's desire was, but in spite of that, they decided not to take up. From a pure devotional science point of view, they are actually disobeying the orders of the spiritual master, in one sense. There is this quote what you mentioned from the 11th canto. There is that you're not indebted to the forefathers and things like that. But here, the Brahma is asking not as in a mundane sense. He's asking as a devotional service, to act in devotional service. So the Sanat Kumaras and the Rishis haven't followed the orders of the spiritual master, or followed the orders of the father or spiritual master. And the consequences, here Manu is immediately been satisfied by Brahma, and Brahma showers his mercy upon him. He's glorified in Bhagavatam. There's so many places Manu is glorified. Third canto, beginning of the fourth canto, and again, in seventh canto, Swayambhu Manu is glorified again and again and again, because he has agreed to follow the instructions of his guru or his spiritual master. On the other hand, the Kumaras, even though they are great devotees, they are blessed with knowledge, them attaining liberation or them succeeding their spiritual endeavor was a very slow process. They cause trouble in Vaikuntha, they go and curse Jai and Vijay. It's for the Lord it's a bit of a headache dealing with the Kumaras. They are impersonalist, ekavad. It's not from a devotee point of view, these positions are not it's not very great places to be. For a devotee, to be impersonal liberation, or to bother, the residents of Vaikuntha, it's not something what devotees do. Devotees' mood is to please the Lord and His servants, and definitely not to be in impersonal liberation. So, in one sense, they have, on a higher note, they have disobeyed their father. But here, Manu, just by following, even though if it is a lower nature, following the instructions of their father, who is the first spiritual master, is much more glorified. And, he enjoys the material world, not the way we enjoy. Our enjoyment is quite miserable. In Bhagavatam, one of the verses, he said, Bhunkte, he uses the word bhunkte. Bhunkte means enjoys the material world, with all its glory, ruling it for a long, long time. And then, he goes back to, is pleased is pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So from a devotee point of view, our goal is not liberation. Our goal is not jnana, to understand the various intricacies of devotions. The scriptures or the knowledge of the material world. Our goal is to make the spiritual master or Krishna happy. What is the last verse from Shishtashtakam, what we are chanting? Ashishyava bhadara sambanishamam adarshanam armahata kurotva yat. What is that? Karoshama. Ashishyava bhadara sambanishamam adarshanam armahata kurotva yat kripas. So it doesn't matter if you reject me by embracing, or if if you hold me close to you or reject me, my desire is that I'm always your worship. You are always my worshipful Lord, and my desire is to always serve you, birth after birth. So our mood, a devotee's mood, is not I want to quickly understand Sankhya, quickly understand yoga, tapasya, vairagya, and then want to achieve liberation. A devotee's mood is service, and to please the Lord. And that doesn't matter if you want to please the Lord in heavenly planets or in the spiritual world or in lower planetary systems. His desire is only to please the Lord and His spiritual master. That is the mood of a real devotee. Even if you take cases like Mahabhagavatas, like Prahlad Maharaj and Hanuman or Bali Maharaj, they are still in this material world in one sense. They haven't achieved liberation in one sense. They're still here in this material world. So their desire is not about achieving the Param Padam, Param Gati. Their desire is to, whatever it takes, want to be in hellish condition or in earthly condition or heavenly condition. My constitutional position is to serve the Supreme. And of course, you can't serve the Supreme directly, so you serve through the spiritual master. So that is the mood of a great exalted Vaishnava. So in that mood, Swayambhava Manu accepts the Grahastha ashram and goes on progeniting. And by just performing the desire of his spiritual master and his father, his life has become glorious to the extent Brahma calls him a hero. So that's the glory of Manu. And Manu also has written Manu Smriti, which is considered a guidance for the human beings how to live in his in his footsteps. And Manu Smriti is very important for us to live peacefully in this world. What is that? There's a verse. It's usually quoted in Gita Mahatmyam, in glorification of Gita. Vedeshu Paurusham Suktam Dharma Shastram Manuhu. Anybody knows this verse? Dharma Shastram Manuhu. The third one, Bharatam, Bharatam Bhagavad Gita. Yeah, Bharatam Bhagavad Gita. That's why it's quoted in Gita Mahatmyam. And Purananam Vaishnava, something like that. Vaishnava, I think. Yeah. So what does this mean? The verse means is of all the suktas. There's Pancha Suktas. Suktas are, Purusha Sukta, Stri Sukta, Narayan Sukta, Bhu Sukta, Nila Sukta. When we perform yagyas, if you go to Mayapur, Gurukul boys will be performing yagyas. So they'll be chanting, we used to chant these Purusha Suktas for doing yagyas. And also in a few verses before, I don't know, it was you or somebody discussed Sahasra Sirisha word, where Vidura, where Krishna puts his feet on Vidura's lap, and where Maitreya compares, Sahasra Sirisha. So that's Purusha Sukta. The first word is from Purusha Sukta. So of all the suktas, there's many suktas, and of all the suktas, Purusha Sukta is considered the best suktas. The demigods pray to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When they get into trouble or when there's trouble, they go to Kshirodakashai Vishnu, the milk ocean, and they recite the Purusha Sukta for the Lord to appear and bless them. So of all, and also there is also a commentary on Purusha Sukta in Bhagavatam. I think it's in second canto. And Purusha Sukta is good because it's also great because it appears in all the four Vedas. It's in other sukta, Sri Sukta, Narayan Sukta. They appear only in Yajur Veda, or some appear only in Samaveda or something, or some in Rig Veda. But Purusha Sukta appears in all the four Vedas. It's repeated in all the four Vedas. So of all the suktas, Purusha Sukta is considered great. And there's many Dharma Shastras. The second verse is Dharma Shastrana Manu. So there is many Dharma Shastra. There's Yagyavalkya's Dharma Shastra. There's many Dharma Shastras. Out of them, Parashara Dharma Shastra. Parashara Dharma Shastra. There's like 10 Dharmashastras, I think. And the main ones, and there are subsidiary Dharmashastras. But out of all these Dharmashastras, Manu's Dharmashastra is considered the topmost. The Manu Smriti is considered the topmost Dharmashastra. I was reading an article by a feminist in one of the Indian newspapers, and she was criticizing Manu, where she says, Manu's definition of good woman have destroyed women in India, destroyed the rights of women in India. And she writes a whole article how women doesn't have equal power or whatever, and she criticizes Manu's definition of, she criticizes Manu, and she criticizes his definition of what a good woman is. But when you look at the scriptures, Manu is considered to be not an ordinary person. And the book written by him is not an ordinary scripture. It's a very important scriptures. Every ordinary living entities, ordinary living men, we are all ordinary men, maybe not you guys, but I consider myself ordinary. All ordinary men should, and women should follow Manu Smriti, unless you are in a Uttama Bhakta platform. So Manu Smriti is important according to this verse. It's glorified, and Manu is glorified. And just to finish off those two other lines, of all the Gitas, Bhagavad Gita is the best. There's many Gitas. There is Rudra Gita, there's Uddhava Gita, there's also Aila Gita, 11th canto, 12th canto, 11th canto, Aila Gita. There's many Gitas, Venu Gita, but of all the Gitas, the Gita mentioned Mahabharata is considered the topmost, and the other interpretation is, Mahabharata is considered a very great literature by itself, and of all the verses mentioned in Mahabharata, the 18 chapters of Mahabharata, which is the Bhagavad Gita, is considered to be the best of all the Mahabharata. And of all the Puranas which discuss about Vishnu is considered the topmost Purana. So there's Matsya Purana, there's Padma Purana, there's many Puranas. Generally the Vishnu Purana is considered the topmost Purana. Of course, for Gaudiya Vaishnavas we consider Bhagavatam. So we can see how Manu, his writings are glorified in various scriptures. So I will finish there. I'll just quickly mention a few things about Lochan Das Thakur. Today is Lochan Das Thakur's disappearance day. Lochan Das Thakur appeared when Mahaprabhu was still in the planet. He appeared was 35 years after Mahaprabhu was born. And he learnt about the pastimes of Mahaprabhu from Damodar Pandit. And Damodar Pandit learned the pastimes of Mahaprabhu from Murari Gupta himself. Murari Gupta was a very close associate of Mahaprabhu, especially during his childhood years. And Murari Gupta wrote the first biography of Mahaprabhu called Chaitanya Charitamrita, which got lost, to my understanding, which was written in Sanskrit. So Lochan Das Thakur heard Mahaprabhu's childhood pastimes and the rest of his pastimes through from Damodar Pandit. And he wrote in a very simple language, in simple Bengali, he wrote Chaitanya Mangala. So Chaitanya Mangala describes Lord Mahaprabhu's, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime, especially early childhood pastime, in very detailed. So when you read Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he says these topics, and every now and then, quite in a lot of instances, he says, these topics have been described in detail by Lochan Das Thakur or by Vrindavan Das Thakur. Especially the childhood pastimes are very much detailed in Chaitanya Mangal by Lochan Das Thakur. Lochan Das Thakur also took residence in Vrindavan along with 6 Goswamis, and when all the primary 5 Goswamis passed away, it was only Jiva Goswami and Lochan Das Goswami left. And Lochan Das Goswami was, very much in deep bhajan, residing in Vrindavan. Lochan Das Thakur was initiated by Narahari Sarkar Thakur. And in Chaitanya Mangal, he glorifies Narahari Thakur, his spiritual master, and asks his permission to write a Chaitanya Mangal. And we can also see when Narottam Das Thakur eventually made it to Vrindavan, and Srinivas Acharya takes him to Jiva Goswami, and Jiva Goswami instructs Srinivas Acharya to take Narottam to Lochan Das Thakur. So Narottam Das Thakur goes to Lochan Das Thakur and takes his permission to reside in Vraja and take up devotional service in a Vraja mode. So he's very much in the same platform of 6 Goswamis in our Sampradaya, but he didn't spend much time writing apart from Chaitanya Mangal. Other Goswamis have spent a lot more time expounding the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Lochan Das Thakur spent most of his time in bhajan. In spite of him not writing scriptures or propounding Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy, he was considered, he was very much worshipped or praised, similar to the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, in the same platform of 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. So even in Narottam Das Thakur, some of his praise, he praises Lochan Das Thakur, pays his obeisances to Lochan Das Thakur before his work or finishing his work. We sung the song Parama Karuna. It's a very simple language, describes the glory of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu and the mood we approach him for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So all the Vaishnava Acharya's songs are very, it immediately puts us in their mood. So it's a very nice to chant or sing the songs of the previous Acharyas, because they are very simple. We are not, I'm not very intellectual, not very expert in scriptures. So people like me, to understand the mood of the Acharyas, their songs are much more easier to appreciate, because it immediately, in a very simple language, explains the mood, what we need to follow. So it's very beneficial for ordinary human beings. So thanking Lochan Das Thakur on his disappearance day. Shri Lochan Das Thakur ki jai. Yes, Prabhu.
Can the Brahman's creation be termed as like a recycled creation, in the sense that it was actually unmanifested, so basically he manifested it, in the sense that the jivas who were not liberated from his previous state, he actually basically manifested?
Yes. It's not say that it is how it is. That's what it is. It is not. It's not like jivas are just created the day before, and because jivas are anadi, they are eternal as the spiritual. As the Lord. What is it again? Vaishnava Acharya song, Anadi Karma Phale. We've been eternally enjoying or suffering our karma phala in this material world. We don't know when we got here. We've been here, for a long time. The word long is not long enough to describe how long we've been here. So we've been here for a long time, and so when Brahma appears, after the dissolution, he Nityabhadas, he gives the opportunity for the Nityabhadas to have a physical form. And through this physical form, we perform. If you have an animal body, you perform. You're an animal body. You gradually progress to a human body, according to whatever sins you perform. Reactions or free activities, and you come to human platform. And through the medium of human body, one can practice devotional service through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, and go back to Godhead. So it's not recycle, it is, it is recycled. There's no other cycle, it is only recycle. It's been happening for a long, long time.
Does it actually include all the jivas he created before Shakti was flying the one?
So the jivas are not created, jivas are eternal. Yeah, so yes, we could, that's the thing, we could have had Anadi Karma Phale. What is that song? Anadi Karma Phale by who? Narottam Das Thakur, isn't it? Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We've been here in this material world for long, long time. Anadi, long time. This could be this Brahma, previous Brahmas, what to speak of, just Swayambhava Manu, before even, various Brahmas, what to speak, And then when Manu appears, through his lineage, all the living beings get a body. And then when those who don't make it, after the dissolution, again go back to, not go back home, but go back residing in Karnodakashaya Vishnu, this body. And then where we are dormant, and then when the creation starts, we're all given another body again. It's like deployment. You're on reserve, and then you're deployed when an opportunity comes. Similarly, we are in a non-designated state in Karnodakashaya Vishnu, and then when the creation takes place, you are designated a different body, and through this body, you achieve.
This process is eternal in the sense that jivas keep falling down, people get liberated. So
There's no, once you're liberated, there's no coming back. Unless you're in Sahujya. If you've gone back to Godhead, when you've gone back to Vaikuntha or Goloka, there's no coming back. But within the material realm, you are in the cycle of samsara. And when you are residing undesignated in Karnodakashaya Vishnu, you're not liberated. That's not a liberated state. That's just a undesignated state where you are disappeared into the body of Karnodakashaya Vishnu. And Karnodakashaya Vishnu is not technically in the spiritual world. He's in the tatastha, he's on the outer realms of the spiritual world. So you're still within the material world. You're not liberated. If you're liberated, you're not coming back, thankfully.
So once a jiva passes, why don't you live?
Sorry, what?
Once a jiva passes, why don't you live?
Yeah.
That's considered liberation.
Well, I don't know the technicalities of liberation. I haven't been there yet. I've just fallen, so on the way back. Generally, yes, if you achieve the 4 kinds of liberation, not the Sahujya, you're not coming back generally. Sahujya, you get bored and you still kind of fall down. But if you achieve the other 4 kinds of liberation, if you achieve the planet of the Lord, at least the minimum standard is achieve the planet of the Lord, then you're not coming back. So once you achieved, so I don't know if you cross the Vaitharanya river, if there is a planet of the Lord, maybe, what is that, Brihad Bhagavatamrita might have the detailed description of it. But yeah,